Hey there, fellow sea glass lovers. Well, here we are. It is the start of a new year. I'm Jackie and I create art with my sea glass. And in this video, I'm going to give you 8 tips for planning and goal setting for your art creation for the upcoming new year. And I'm also going to give you a bit of a teaser of some of the projects that I'm going to be working on this year so that you'll know, okay, you may be seeing some of this in my YouTube videos in the upcoming year. So in my last video, I showed you all the projects that I did in 2021 in the hopes that it would inspire you, give you some ideas of some things that you'd like to work on or some things that you'd like to create. So in this video, 8 tips for how to get yourself all planned up so that your year for 2022 is very creative. So the first tip I would give you is to take some time to reflect on why do I do art. And personally, I have lots of reasons for doing art. So I spend some time with my art journal and I do some writing about my reasons for doing art, and I make some lists of things I want to work on and things I want to explore in my art. And so really take some time to do that. So I look at main reason I do art, therapy. Because art is extremely therapeutic. And I don't know about you, but I've got issues. I know where we're living right now in our area of the world, COVID is as bad as it's ever been. It's very anxiety provoking. So working on art is a really positive way to spend some time in your day. So it's really important for me for therapy. Another reason I do art, or one of the main reasons I do art, is that it brings me back to the beach. All that beach imagery, it reminds me of the beach. It helps me even enjoy the beach more when I'm there, and it just takes me back. And then the other thing is I really like to share what I do with other people. So it's important for me to do art for that reason. So if you can have a focus for why you're doing art, it can really help to motivate you, and it can really help to give you that excuse to take the time to spend time doing art. Which brings me to tip number 2. Give yourself permission to set time aside for art. Because let's face it, we all have very busy lives. We're pulled in all sorts of different directions to do all sorts of different things. And sometimes we just need to say, this is my art time. I'm going to take that time for myself to do art. Because I always say we do art for ourselves first, so it might seem a bit selfish, but it's okay to take care of yourself and to take that time for art for yourself. Tip number 3, take a look at your calendar and set yourself a few achievable deadlines. Emphasis on achievable. So for example, you might have your sister's birthday coming up, so you say, okay, I want to make something for her birthday. Then hopefully that will push you to start a project and finish a project. So tip number 4, probably the most important tip I'll give you today, is to find your inspiration. So I find tons of inspiration at the beach. So I take a lot of video, a lot of pictures, and I file them away so I can refer back to them when I'm looking for some inspiration for my art pieces. Like these birds, there was a heron out there in the water, and look at all these shorebirds up on the cape. And I just love the eagles. I'm planning to do some eagles in my art this year as well. And I find so much inspiration in pictures of crashing waves and sun sparkling off the water, or pictures of people looking out over the water peacefully. This is my granddaughter. Lots of inspiration there. So I just find pictures that I've taken are really inspirational for me. You can find lots of inspiration in your hobbies as well. And this summer I took up bass fishing, and I really love the look of a lot of these fish. Sorry for the dead fish pictures, but they're so beautiful, and I know I'm going to use some fish in my art this year. I am very fortunate to live among trees, and the trees provide a tremendous amount of inspiration to me. So I know I'm going to be using some trees in some of my art pieces this year. So sometimes I'm inspired by color, and I bought this little can of house paint for a house project I was working on in this beautiful teal color. So I'm going to use some of the leftover paint for some of my paint projects. And I think this color alone is going to inspire me to do some really cool paint pour projects that I will embellish with sea glass. So stay tuned for that. And because I really love to do sea glass mosaics on antique windows, I'm often inspired by windows themselves. So my brother-in-law gave me these two windows recently, and I've cleaned them up, and they really inspire me. Windows themselves just inspire so much history, and I'm quite excited and inspired by these windows. And I'm hoping to get some sea glass mosaics completed on them this year. So an important part of the planning process for your upcoming art projects is to gather up a bunch of your materials. So this is one project I know for sure I'm going to work on. This is a sea glass mosaic window that I'm doing of a tree, and I'm quite excited to do this one. And I know that I'm going to be doing my tree in brown, so I have my brown jars of sea glass sitting right there. Not all my brown sea glass, but I've got a bit of it. So I know that when I'm ready to get going on that, I'll just pop it up onto my table and I'll get going. This is going to be exciting. So sea glass and windows, my glue is sitting here all ready to go. So one of the things I want to make is a sea glass eagle. So I have my frame ready and my sketch is all done and it's all ready to go. And I have my pile of brown sea glass sitting there ready to get started. So this project is definitely going to be one of the early 2022 projects for me. And I always have a few empty frames and sea glass sitting on the shelves to inspire me when I'm ready to start a new project. And with my quilt projects, I've started this seascape piece that I know I want to work on this year. So I have this one sitting here along with some materials I'd like to use to help inspire me to finish this project this year. And I love to make my little quilt cards that I embellish with sea glass. So to get myself started, I've cut a bunch of squares for bases for all my little cards and a bunch of pieces of fabric. And I know that whenever I feel like working on that, I can just turn to this pile and I'll have tons of material to work with. So I have a pile of paints and paint pouring material organized, ready to do some of my paint pouring projects. And I have some canvases set aside here, and because I like paint pouring on old tiles, I have some 8x8 old scrap tiles and some 4" by 4" old scrap tiles that I think I'll use for some different projects. And one of the things I would encourage you to do this year in your art projects is to be fearless. I have these old scrap tiles that are mini mosaic tile things. And I was thinking, I'm going to do some experimenting to paint on these and maybe use them in doing some mosaic art, because I do love mosaic art. I do a lot of sea glass mosaic art. So I'm going to experiment a bit with that. So be fearless. Try something new. Tip number 7 is to use a design board. So I have this design board in my art room, and I'm always pinning stuff up there that kind of inspires me and gives me ideas. Right now I've got a whole bunch of quilt squares in beach colors pinned up on my design board, and eventually I'm hoping to get them sewed into a bit of a quilt. So we'll see what happens with that. So the last tip I would give you is to know your process. Know what works for you. So for me, I know that I like to do my quilt art, I like to do my sea glass art, and I like to paint. So to have a whole bunch of different projects set up and ready to go, I can bounce from one to the other depending on what I feel like working on and how much time I might have in a particular day. So I find that works really well for me. For you, you may be one of these people that works best when you start a project and finish it before you go on to the next project. Or maybe 1 or 2 projects at a time is quite enough. So if you try to work against what works for you, it's not going to work. So know your process. And don't forget, my lesson of the day is to do art for yourself first. Let's face it, art is a self-fulfilling endeavor, so you really need to please yourself first. So thanks so much for joining me for this video. I hope you found the tips very helpful, and I hope it gave you a bit of a teaser of what you might see from me in the upcoming year. And I really hope you join me for my future videos. Be sure to subscribe and press the bell notification so you'll know when I post a new video. And until next time, I hope you make it out to the beach, and happy sea glass hunting, and best wishes to everyone for the upcoming year.